All right, so we just wrapped up a good conversation with Bill Taylor of DCE Solar. He's a proud SIA member and doing some interesting work on sort of design and build services for it sounds like largely sort of the commercial and sort of corporate off-taker kind of projects, spanning from ground mount to rooftop and carports and all the things in between. But just had an interesting story to tell about sort of his long tenure in the industry since 2009. So
yeah, 17 years is a long time to be in the industry, and I don't think you stick around often as a business unless you're capable of innovating, capable of finding new products, finding new customers. And I think it was cool to watch him walk through how the growth had happened from his perspective as a company, starting in ground mounts and racking and such stuff like that, and building more and more services along the way. He talked about getting into design, getting into energy storage, and it's not a totally exceptionally different story than we hear from a lot of the industry, but it's nice to hear from somebody who's gotten to be in it as long as Bill has.
Yeah, exactly. And we've talked about how so much of the deployment and scale and growth that we've seen is just in the last 5 years, much less the last 10 or 15. So the industry that he was a part of when he started the company 17 years ago is dramatically different than it is today, and he's still very invigorated about like what's coming next and all the new ways to sort of track this growth and do it responsibly. And so it's nice to know that there are a lot of companies out there who are in it for the long haul and trying to continue to stay on top of the trends and innovate. And we're going to need all those folks for the future. So. Yeah,
and whether that's new innovation or old innovations like doing right by your customer, but buying American, building American, he's kept that through line throughout his tenure.
So, Bill, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate you taking the time. If you want to just start by introducing yourself and your company, and we'll go from there.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure to be with you guys. My name is Bill Taylor. I'm the founder, CEO, owner of DCE Solar. I started DCE Solar in 2009 and saw where there's a need for energy. I'm an entrepreneur at heart, and I want to see where there's problems in the world, so that energy is a problem. So I started DCE Solar.
You talk about this change in demand, especially in 2009, and sort of what led you into the industry. I'm curious how you've seen that industry evolve over your time here. Obviously, you've been able to expand. You've been able to find new products. Curious, sort of like what else you see what other directions you see the industry moving in now.
Yeah. So actually, when I started, I wanted to do anything in just to get my foot in the door. So I would make unique brackets. I would put mount solar on rooftops that really weren't deserving of it. We did that for the Navy. Actually, that was a unique job. But since then, really honed in what our specialty is, what we could be best at, so we don't have multiple products and trying to do everything. So we really honed it in on the rooftops and ground mounts, and now corporates and trackers. So we've seen the evolution. Like I said, it started in 2009. So over the 17 years, I've really seen a lot of changes. And our initial products were made out of aluminum. We saw where aluminum prices were going. We changed it to steel because we get a better yield, strength to cost yield. So everybody was trying to drill down the prices. So we had to, always work in that arena to see where the industry is going. Back to your question, where initially in 2009, 2010, the ground, it was always flat. All the availability of real estate was ideal. And now all that was getting sucked up. You were in challenging terrains. You had more, topography, challenges. And then we created solutions to overcome that. So they would not have to do a lot of civil. So our racking actually accommodates the flow of the ground, so we can keep the cost down. Again, this was all about price cost compression. So we had, again, new products. Then you have geotechnical challenges. Now the available flat land's gone. You're dealing with rolling hills. Now you're on sides of a mountain. Now you're on areas where you're into rock. So it's all because the availability of the ideal land was getting sucked up. Mm-hmm. So we had to change our designs or morph into these designs so we could still provide the best products and have a great solution for the customer. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, that'll continue to be challenged. You're in areas where there's heavy snow. So you're way up north in 80 pounds per square foot where, EPCs or IPPs weren't going in that direction because they wanted to be in areas where you have low wind, no snow. Again, those parcels are no longer available. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So now you're in more challenging terrains. So we've always looked at where the industry's going, try to stay ahead of it. And that's what we're doing now. Back to your question is where I see it going mm-hmm. is battery technology. Mm. Battery coupled with solar makes a lot of sense. Or you have battery by itself projects. So we're always watching it in advance, what's coming, so we're prepared.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really cool. And I mean, I think as we talk a lot about on this show, just how much the battery storage and the falling cost of batteries has changed the economics of this for different project developers and everyone up and down the supply chain, right? Even solar racking is watching that change happen and adapting, as is. I'm curious too about the sort of the customer base you're talking about. So you're talking about how DCE is changing and evolving and providing new opportunities. I'm curious if you've seen a change on the sort of customer side, whether or not that's still mostly independent power producers and utilities, or are you seeing more from the corporations or companies or schools or individuals, maybe even farms, things like that?
Yeah, I think most recently we're going to see a lot more PPAs directly with the user mm-hmm. Because they're seeing energy prices escalate. And that's going to continue. Yeah. We all know. Mm-hmm. So, and energy is a big part of their business. And if they can have something that is predictable, that's where they want to be. Mm-hmm. So we're seeing a lot more PPAs directly with the end user. And then they want a couple batteries because ideally, if they're running 24/7, the battery helps them mm-hmm. Curtail some of their demands.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I wanted to circle back to what you mentioned about your supply chain and sort of pivoting from aluminum to steel to again continue to drive down costs. That's probably, I would imagine, one of many decisions that you've made over the years to sort of reconfigure supply chains and think about different manufacturing requirements to drive down costs. What is that looking like for you these days? That the supply chain volatility is certainly something that we're heavily focused on at SIA, trying to ensure that there's as much certainty as possible, but also mm-hmm. build up more domestic manufacturing for all sorts of different components of the supply chain. So we'd just love to hear sort of from your vantage point, like what your sourcing looks like and kind of how you're thinking about domestic supply or just supply in general moving forward.
Sure. In 2009, my mission was really twofold. Was one, to buy domestically, mm-hmm. hire domestically, because I wanted to help the U.S. economy. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I stayed with that mission, that vision, those values. Although we were kind of pressured to go elsewhere because of price, we stayed that course. Mm-hmm. So we've watched our competitors go overseas, and I took margin hit, but I chose, this is my core values, I'm staying here. Mm-hmm. And we are starting to see a challenge domestically because of what's going on with the war. Right. Mm-hmm. We're starting to see U.S. steel prices going up and delivery time slipping. Mm. So they are being extended. Now, we don't have a crystal ball. Is that going to change quickly? We assume it will, not quickly, but we'll assume it'll level out at some point. Mm-hmm. Because everybody's trying to learn with this new economy, with the war and mm-hmm. impact on everything,
Right.
It's yet to be seen.
Yeah.
But we are starting to experience that in the U.S.
Mm-hmm. And that's, I mean, it's interesting that when we talk about that type of supply chain disruption that is just that international, right? It's like a war in Iran is going to affect everyone's supply chains. If you're buying steel in the United States or you're buying steel internationally, it's gonna mess up your prices. And that's, I feel like, as you were saying, one of the main benefits of maintaining U.S. based supply chains is you're insulated from that for a time, at least typically longer than a lot of other folks that are maybe sourcing internationally.
Yeah. So my benefit is I'm not subjected to long lead time on the water because it's already here, right? So others are being hindered by that because they have to take different routes. They're 1 or 2 weeks longer. I don't have that problem. So there's a benefit for sure. And with the whole market and every market is just what none of us like is the uncertainty.
Yeah.
And there's no clarity. Washington is not helping us with any type of clarity. So it's not just solar. We're all in this quagmire together.
Yeah. I also wanted to double click a little bit on carports, because I think that's an interesting and highly visible sort of application of solar technology. It's one of the types of projects that I sort of hear about the most from people outside of our industry, that they'll see it at a facility somewhere, and it just sort of is more striking as an innovative way to solve multiple problems at once. So would love to just sort of hear how you got into that sort of side of the business and where you think it's going, if it has sort of any unique challenges or opportunities moving forward, because I think it's an interesting sort of land use application.
Sure. And why people outside of SEA are asking about it is because if you on rooftops they don't see it, on a Target store they don't see it, and a solar farm they may rarely see that.
Right.
So this is more in your face type of solar.
Yeah.
It does add a lot of benefit from especially like in the South where you try and keep your car out of the heat. That's a benefit, but there is a great return on it. It's more costly to do it, but companies are seeing the benefit. If they don't have a lot of acreage, they put it in their facility. But the other thing that's really we're adding to that is the EV chargers. So that's another avenue where they see that it's good for their employees or customers, like a Walmart will have it there so they can keep the client there a little longer, so they're buying while they're charging their car.
Right.
So we are part of that. We're very excited about that. We are seeing a lot more growth in that area. So we're very excited to be a participant in that in the arena.
I'm curious where you think some of those individual applications are going to, because I think carports is a good example. But schools typically are also have warehouses, things like that. I'm curious if you've seen a change or have a prediction on kind of like where you see some of these project types going over the next several years, or what you've seen the most growth in. I mean, you mentioned energy storage, and I think that's a good one. But as we see, to your point, some of the like sort of best land solar's already been added to it. Where are we going to be seeking out additional ways to add solar in a community? Is it going to be schools? Is it going to be carports? Do you think that the ground mounted land farms are going to be are still going to have a role? Where do you see that going?
It's really all of the above. Where there's land and there's states that are starting to adopt. There's still a lot of states that have not adopted solar, and they have the perfect land.
Yeah.
So when they start seeing their neighbor getting the raw benefit of putting solar, they'll start releasing that land for availability of putting solar. And there'll be a lot of IPPs, developers wanting to put their flag there. And we're seeing that in states that we've never really participated in. We're starting to see them put their foot in the water for those. As far as the corporate themselves, we're building a very large complex in New Jersey for a hospital. Actually, it's several hospitals. So they don't have a lot of land.
Right.
Their rooftops aren't really conducive for solar because there's a lot of air conditioning units and units up there that really you won't get enough kilowatts. But they have a lot of parking.
Yeah.
So that made a lot of sense for them, and they use a lot of power. Yeah, schools use a lot of power. So we're excited about this project. It's actually starting next month, and like I said, it's several hospitals.
Yeah. And I have to assume with some of these customers, hospitals being probably the best example, that it isn't just, mitigating electricity bills and costs, but it's also a reliability, play too, to ensure that, amidst grid disruptions and other unforeseen circumstances, that there's a little bit more, an additional layer of reliability, right? So I just curious, like, are those conversations that you're having with these customers, are they sort of, pointing to that as a reason for exploring a project?
That's part of it.
Yeah.
But, first is cost. They're trying to lower their cost. Again, what you said about predictability, everybody sees the escalation of pricing, so they want more certainty.
Yeah, long-term price.
So that is, if you want to put everything prioritize, that would be the key.
Yeah. What are you sort of most excited about looking ahead? What do you think DCE is going to look like 10 years from now, 5 years from now, even? There's a lot of shifts happening right now with the sort of investments in storage, as you mentioned, and a lot of other things. But curious to sort of hear what you're most looking forward to out of the next sort of chapter of your company.
Yeah, for the next few years, we're going to continue to grow our existing platform. Like I've shared with you, 2009, we had the racking. Then we brought on 2019 installation services, then electrical services. We will start bringing in, potential battery technology. So we are building battery plants. We will actually be a leader in that space. That's one of our intentions. So wherever there's a need for energy, we want to be the best, and we will be the best. And we've grown, like I said, 2009, and we've grown methodically. Very, very disciplined growth. Didn't overgrow. We didn't grow too fast. We will never jeopardize service over monetary gains. That is not of interest to me. I want to be the best we can to our customers. So that has served us well. We've seen some of our competitors fall out because they tried to take the growth trajectory too fast.
Right.
And they failed. They failed their customer. They failed the industry. So we want to be the best we can for the industry. So in 10 years, what we will look like, we will be a much bigger platform. Ecosystem, as I mentioned earlier. We will bring on more services and really help fulfill this shortage of 60 to 90 gigawatts that we need of energy.
Yeah.
Well, we always love to ask, I mean, for the listeners that are going to be interested, how can they get in touch with you and get in contact with DCE?
Yeah, they can go to the website, dcesolar.com, or look for me on LinkedIn. That always works.
Well, Bill, I really appreciate you taking the time. I think your message about sort of thoughtful and methodical growth is one that our industry can definitely benefit from. And there's all sorts of, transitional moments and growth opportunities out there that folks are scrambling for. But I think taking the approach that you've taken to be sort of customer focused and really build a platform that you can be proud of and that aligns with your values is a really encouraging and exciting story to hear.
Thank you. So in the inception of the company, there was two things two criterias. One is one that I would want to work for. I would be proud to work for. They have my back. They care about me. They care about my family with high integrity. The other side of that was a company that I would want to buy from. I trust them. I'm giving them $1. They're going to give me $1.30, $40 return of value. They got my back. So that's really basic principles that we drive very hard, and that's why we're still here after 17 years.
I hope we'll be hearing from you for the next 17 as well.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'm going to be here.